Hi, this is Charles Kelly. How you doing? Hope you're having a great day. Here in London, it's like 30 degrees. It's unbelievable. It's so unusually hot here compared to a few days ago. Anyway, this week has been an interesting week. We saw earlier on in the week that holiday plans were plunged into disarray when the government changed the rules on people returning from Spain. This is people who've gone on holiday under one set of rules and are now in Spain coming back under a different set of rules, i.e. that they have to quarantine or self-isolate when they get home. And this has obviously caused a lot of cancellation of holidays. It's caused people to have to come back early. Travel firms like Jet2 appear to be in trouble because they're saying that they cannot afford to fly out planes empty in a couple of weeks' time when people are supposed to come back from holiday. So they're saying, well, you better come back now. We've got planes now. Come back now, otherwise your flight in a week, 2 weeks' time is cancelled. So in other words, you're on holiday for 2 weeks on a package tour with a company that said we'll fly you out on the 19th of July, we're going to fly you back on X date in August. And then when you're out there, they say, well, because of the downturn in going to Spain, the flight that would have collected you in 2 weeks' time, we would have had a full plane of new passengers, but now we haven't got a full plane. We can't afford to fly that plane out empty to collect you. Therefore, we've got some empty planes this week. You don't get on these planes now, we're not flying you back. I mean, what a situation to be in. And people haven't got much other choice because, it's not like, I'll book another flight with EasyJet. They just aren't there. So, and basically holiday plans have been thrown. It's almost like somebody from the Sun asked Boris Johnson during a briefing today. He said, "Have you cancelled summer?" Because everything seems to be going wrong. And today, actually, Boris Johnson was announcing further lockdown restrictions and changes to rules that is going to definitely put a further dampener on the economy, because we were looking at maybe coming out of this and things starting to get back to normal. But now it seems to, he said, we're very gently squeezing the brake. We're squeezing the brake, not slamming on the brakes, but just squeezing the brake pedal. But to me, to some, it seems like they're just going into reverse. But there you go. Now, obviously, this has implications because the economy is on a rocky basis. We're in recession. The measures this year are going to cost 300 billion. Trillions of dollars and pounds and euros have been printed to cope with this problem. And you've got Germany in recession for the first time in 20 years. Spain, Italy, basket cases. America, 44 million people unemployed. Nearly 2 million people went unemployed just in the last week or so. And things are really, really tough. So bad that Donald Trump is hinted at cancelling the elections because he probably knows he's going to lose with this. No president has won an election with economic figures like this. So people are going to be really fed up with the whole thing. So this week, though, there is some glimmer of hope for the property market in that house prices rose by 1.7% in July, and this compares to a 1.5% fall in June. Therefore, we've got about a 3% jump since June. However, June was the first annual fall in 8 years, and the prices now are still 1.6% less than they were in April of this year. So it's not all great news, but at least it's showing a movement upwards. Now, a lot of people feel, of course, that this is due to pent-up demand, that people were waiting to move. They've got their mortgages ready, they've got their deposits ready, and they've just gone for it. And agents have definitely reported that things are busier, that they've got a lot of inquiries, they're selling properties very fast, and it looks like that there is a bit of a mini boom going on. And also this is partly as a result of the Chancellor Rishi Sunak's stamp duty holiday until next March. So obviously you've got a lot of people who can say, well, if I'm going to buy, I'll buy now and save a bit of stamp duty, although it's not fortunes, but it can make a difference to people. And if they buy that between now and March, they'll get this stamp duty cut, stamp duty holiday. Stamp duty is a tax you pay on buying a property. So you buy a property and the government says, thanks very much, we're going to charge you a tax for that, for buying a property. And for buy-to-let investors, there's, thank you very much, another 3% charge on buying a property. So for instance, if you bought a property for £500,000 or thereabouts last year, your stamp duty would be over £30,000. It's obscene, it's ridiculous. That's the way the government raises money from people who are considered to be soft targets. Well, people are not going to wear it anymore. People say, well, I'm not going to buy properties at that level, and that's why they're collecting less stamp duty from the higher end of the market than they were when taxes are lower. History has shown that the more you tax economies and tax companies and tax business people and tax entrepreneurs, the less tax revenue you get. That if you lower taxes, then it shows that your tax take will go up, and the government will actually then be able to do more with that money than trying to just tax people out of existence because they're in a panic. So that's my message to the government on taxes. And you can see now that they've reduced taxes on stamp duty, and people are now rushing out to buy, and their overall tax take will probably go up because more people will be buying and paying the tax than if people are sort of sitting on their haunches and saying, well, I'm not going to buy at the moment because things are not right. So that's what's happening at the moment. We know also that unemployment could soar to 10% by the end of the year once the job furlough scheme ends, and the recession could last till 2024. In fact, the chairman of British Airways said that demand for flights and that is not going to go back to normal until 2023. Now, I went through this week some of the places you can get, the best places you can get a good return on your savings. Now, savings are a way of putting a bit of money aside. It's not the same as investment, but the best rates at the moment are with National Savings, NS&I, where you can get 1%, no penalties, no minimum amounts, and you can also do well in some of their bonds. You can get over 1% if you tie up your money in one of their bonds. That's a way of just putting your money aside. It's very safe. It's safer than banks because it's guaranteed by the government, of course. And if you're not doing so already and you are a first-time buyer, you should be going into the lifetime ISA. And if you're on low income and on benefits, you should be looking at a type of ISA that is aimed just for people on low incomes and on benefits, that gives them a 50% bonus on their savings. It's called the Help to Save ISA. Critics say it's aimed at the wrong people, but it does enable people, hopefully encourage people to build up a little bit of an emergency fund or a contingency fund, so they don't have to go down to payday lenders that I talked about this week, who charge up to 91% for lending you money. Even high street banks, if you can get an overdraft, charge 40%, and credit card companies are still charging rip-off rates of 16 to 20% when base rates are virtually at zero. So what I'm saying is, years ago, when base rates were commonly at 10 and 12%, I remember having credit cards and still paying around 18, 20% on a credit card. And now that base rates have come down from 10%, almost 1,000% down, it's come down to less than 1%. They're still charging these extortionate rates. In other words, they're able to get money a lot cheaper and charge us at a much higher margin of profit than ever before. And that's something that maybe the government should look at. That's something I would say they should be looked at, and curbing the excess profits that the bank are making on people who borrow money and get stuck into borrowing for perhaps for all of their life. They stay in borrowed situations. They stay in debt for most of their life. Remember that when you see a sign saying fast credit, it really means fast debt. So just be careful of that, and especially these payday loans, pawnbrokers. These type of loan sharks will keep you in debt because you'll never be able to get out of it. You'll never be able to completely pay it off. And that's why it's important to have a contingency fund, have savings there, so that when the washing machine breaks down, you have an emergency, you have a little crisis, as we all do, that you've got the money to pay for it and you don't have to resort to credit cards. If you do have to use your credit card, ideally you should be paying that off every month and not letting the balance ride out. I mean, as I was saying earlier this week, if you've got a bit of money in the bank and you've got your contingency fund, and then you've got, say, £5,000 making you 0.25%, but then you've got a balance on your credit card of £5,000 where you're paying 16 or 18%, why not pay that off, clear that debt down? You've still got to have some money aside, because when you need money, you can't always get it from a bank. Banks only want to lend you money when you don't need it. But on the other hand, if you're paying 18% on that £5,000, that's a lot of money. That's nearly £900 a year, and you're not going to make anything like that on the savings amount in your bank that is there. And remember that if you pay the minimum amount on your credit cards, if you just pay the minimum amount required by the lender, the bank said, would you like to pay the minimum? Yeah, I'll pay the minimum. That could take 20 years to pay off the balance. If you just pay the minimum, it could take 20 years to pay off the balance, because the minimum payment only covers part of what, it doesn't cover the whole lot. It doesn't clear your balance fast enough and pay all of the interest. So you just be very careful of that, paying the minimum. Try and pay extra. You can set an extra amount, or you can pay off lump sums when you want. So that was what's been going on this week. As I said, the British Airways owner and a lot of the airlines and travel firms are in crisis, said that this is the worst crisis in its history. And BA, well, the former BA was around during wars and that sort of thing, and they've had the oil crisis and all these things have been going on, but this is the worst crisis in history. The travel group Thomson, now renamed TUI. Why do they change their name from someone all people knows for years? And someone said, oh, well, how about we rebrand it to TUI? TUI, T-U-I. Well, they've got all those shops in the high street, and they have started to close down. One near me has closed down. That's like 4 or 5 jobs gone. It's sad, really, but I think it was inevitable that this would happen. This virus and this lockdown has just speeded up the situation. It's just accelerated the program of closures and people doing things online rather than in person. And I think one businessman said that this crisis has accelerated technology by 4 or 5 years. Stuff that we might not use for another 3 or 4 years, and 5 years even, is now being used, like making people work from home, like people having meetings on Zoom, talking to your grandparents on Zoom. That no one knew what Zoom was 6 months ago, and all these people have been put to work at home, and a lot more automation to come. And that's why I think when the furlough scheme really comes to an end this autumn, I think a lot of jobs will not be coming back, and we're going to see millions of people unemployed again, like there were during previous crises. And that's when I think the stuff will hit the fan, and the GDP and spending will go down. And we'll see the only companies that seem to be doing well at the moment are these tech giants, Amazons and the Googles and the Facebooks and the Apples. Apple's profits have soared at the moment. They're selling more and more units. I'm not sure why people are buying consumer goods during this time when they really need to be putting money aside and saving money for a rainy day. Well, it's already raining now, so if you're not saving at the moment, if you just keep spending during this rainy day period, then you are really in cloud cuckoo land, unless you've got so much money in the bank you don't really care. So that's all really for today. Thanks for listening. Hope you all have a great weekend. Thanks for everyone who tuned in on my podcasts on iTunes and Stitcher, and also on Facebook Live. It's always great to see you. Thanks very much. And hi to Jojo there on Facebook Live, and all the people on Facebook Live. Love to hear your comments. Love to see you here. It's always good to get your feedback as to what's going on. I hope wherever you are in the world that things are not so bad and you're surviving. I know in other countries things are a little bit worse than here. At least here we've got a benefit system, a safety net for people to fall back on. Many of my listeners in the Far East haven't got that. So, if you haven't got anything to eat, then you just go hungry, or you just rely on charity. So I wish you all well, stay safe, and have a great weekend. Bye for now.